Hello and welcome to a new edition of To The Point. I'm Ahmed and I'm your host for tonight's edition, sitting in for Dina Othman. Happy New Year, dear viewers. As the world faced an unprecedented global health emergency as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic in 2021, travel and tourism were among the most affected sectors globally, with a significant cancelled reservations, a decrease in international travel, and a shutdown of the industry lasting for months. The tourism sector faced unprecedented challenges in 2021, again globally, but among the countries who recovered first was Egypt. A crisis is always an opportunity to rethink and draw up and change your map. And we saw in the year 2021 a lot of significant events, important ones, and a rebound. Festivals that were watched by the entire world, and much more. And to discuss this with us is Mr. Ahmed Mussallam, a tour guide. Sir, we welcome you to our program. We thank you for coming to us and braving the cold weather here in this cold Cairo night. So we want to start by talking about the year 2021. Of course, for many of us, the first thing that comes to mind is the event in April, the mummies, the Royal Mummies Parade, and then the Rams Road that was attended by His Excellency the President in Luxor. Inauguration of new museums, renovation of older ones, new discoveries, restoration of many of our antiquities, and you name it. So the floor is yours.
Of course, I consider the year 2021 is the year of achievements for us, as people like the monuments, like our history in Egypt. Of course, the statistics or calculations are telling us that we're losing a lot. For example, we lose 72% of the tourism. We lose more than 855,000 jobs, nearly 1 million jobs in tourism sector. We were expecting this year, 2021, to make at least $17.6 billion, which is a number that exceeds the number of year 2019 and 2020 by about 23%. But I believe we are regaining back our tourism in a way after the achievements that we have done in 2021. Talking about an issue like the new discoveries, regaining back some of our monuments, talking about the new openings for museums. For example,
we're watching now, Mr. Mussallam, of course, the opening of the Avenue of the Sphinxes Road in Luxor that celebrated the inauguration of a route that once connected the Karnak and Luxor temples and presented Luxor as the biggest open-air museum in the world. And of course that event, which was widely viewed globally, was attended by His Excellency the President himself.
That's right. There is two main famous occasions happens in Egypt. I believe this is one of them, the Sphinx Avenue, and the procession of the royal mummies that was moved. I believe that most of the people all around the world have seen those two events. Okay? And by seeing them in the time that everybody is closing up his door, not having anything to do, not having any kind of tourism around the world.
Especially back in April.
Yeah.
The Royal Mummies Parade, yes.
Everybody is locking up. So when you see something like that, it's telling Egypt is always on the lead. Egypt is always showing its best. For example, You know that the Egyptian Museum is supposed to contain the maximum number of monuments all around the world, 160,000 pieces in one museum. So to move the royal mummies from the Egyptian Museum in such a great precision, it's a kind of announcing that we're regaining back the respect of our grandfathers. Because if you go to the Civilization Museum and see the mummies now, it's well respected in a place like the King's Valley. Nobody's allowed to explain, no much light, no photographs with flash. It's a kind of respect to the mummies. This is one of the good things that I respect, to visit the museum and to see how it was respected to see these mummies. Of course, the Sphinx Avenue in Luxor, celebrating the famous feast, the Opet Feast, that celebrates the triumphal movement from the Karnak to Luxor temple every year, is regaining back our history in a way. Because I believe this is documenting for the people who doesn't know much about the history of Egypt, that Egypt has such a rich history that is not announced much to everybody. I mean, to mention that you have amazing number of sphinx with a ram-headed gods or a man face, more than 1,050 of them, they were rediscovered again to be placed on the right place. You're not mentioning now Al Karnak temple or Luxor that got 1/3 of the monuments of Egypt. You're mentioning new discoveries. You're mentioning something you're regaining back. As if our history is regained back in year 2021. Of course, one of the good things that I really like, that we have more than 5,300 pieces regained back from all around the museums all around the world, the United States, France, Spain, Israel. This is something that delights me up, like you're gaining back your strength. I mean, to show the number of museums that was opened in Egypt is something really nice. We have to take care of our monuments again in order to renovate this in our heart. This is something really impressed me.
Yes.
Even if we don't have much tourism like before.
And of course, in 2022, we are waiting for the opening of the biggest of them all, the Grand Egyptian Museum, Gem. Allow us, Mr. Mussallam, dear viewers, to take in this phone interview with our dear guest, Mr. Ahmed Badr, a tourism expert. A very good evening, sir, and a happy new year. And we're discussing here with Mr. Ahmed Mussallam, our dear guest in the studio, the achievements of 2021 in the tourism sector. We know that the past few months saw a pickup in the flow of international tourism, Mr. Badran, and full bookings were across the board here in Egypt, and that the numbers were really impressive compared to the first 9 months, perhaps. So please give us your intake on the year 2021 and what to look forward for in the year 2022 as far as Egypt's tourism sector is concerned.
Well, first, thank you very much for having me, and good evening to you and your guests, and Happy New Year to all of the audience, all Egypt, and
thank
the
you,
whole
sir.
world. Well, in fact, yes, last quarter of 2021 was amazingly exceeded our expectations at the tourism sector. You know, we were hoping for the business to start to go back, and what happened is the business was booming back, not just going back. So we, starting from almost mid-September, October, November, all the way to December with the Christmas and New Year, we witnessed a very good flow of business back to Egypt. I mean, tourism back to Egypt from all over the world, from Europe, from Americas, from everywhere. So, of course, that was after almost a year and a half of almost, well, not almost, but zero tourism to Egypt, after the corona pandemic and the world closure and all what we witnessed. So this flow back to Egypt is, I have to say it was because of many things. One thing is what the government did to encourage all the people working in tourism and giving them priority for the vaccinations. So when we started to promote Egypt back to the world, the number one thing in safety and security was all the people working in tourism business now in Egypt are fully vaccinated against coronavirus, so that gave the people confidence and encouraged them to travel to Egypt and to put Egypt as a priority destination for them. Now everybody is asking the first question now. It's not what do you have or what can you offer to me, but are you vaccinated or not? This is the new era of tourism and travel. So that was a great step from the government, really, I have to say that. It gave us priority to travel to Egypt. That was one thing. The other thing is also the two great events that we had, especially the Mummies Parade last April. That was a huge success worldwide, gave Egypt a huge boost for tourism. Unfortunately, that boost was postponed until 5 months later, until October. But almost most of the tourists came. They were asking about this particular parade, and believe it or not, now the Museum of National Civilization, where the mummies are now, is becoming one of the most important attractions to tourists. Everybody wants to go there and see it. So that is a great tool of marketing. By this event, we marketed to Egypt, marketed to this museum that was actually most of the people think it was just open last April. No, it was opened almost 10 years ago, but it was out totally of the travel map because there was
so you're talking,
no
of course, about
there.
You're talking about Nemek in Fustat, right?
Exactly. Yes. Exactly.
Yeah.
So definitely that was a great boost. And then the event last November in Luxor with Avenue of the Sphinxes, that was also another huge, great, successful event that gives Egypt another big push to the tourism coming to Egypt.
So what are we looking for, Mr. Badr? What are we looking for in 2022, and what are you personally looking for in that or waiting for during 2022?
Well, we still have some challenges with the corona and this new variant, the Omicron, and God only knows what other variants will appear. So that is another big challenge, although I don't think it will be big as the first one. I mean, the corona back in 2020, I don't think the world will be closed again. Definitely it will affect us, and it started to affect us. We started to have some cancellations, but thank God so far it's not that serious. So I hope one thing is for everybody in tourism business to because there are some people who are not vaccinated yet, especially for the people who are not dealing directly with the travelers. So they must have the vaccine, and I think the government also is encouraging for a third dose. All these steps are giving us, confidence for travel, for the tourism to continue flow to Egypt. Also, I wish for the government for some other regulations just to make them a little bit easier for the tourism to continue flow, because there are some regulations we wish it would be more easy. So
You're talking about
what we are seeing now is 2022 is doing well. So I hope for the best, and I'm sure we will have the tourism back again, and another talk about what Egypt really deserves in tourism, which I think we can easily have 3-4 times of what we have right now.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Ahmed Badr, as always, for your precious input and for your time, sir. Now, Mr. Mussallam, back here in the studio, there has been an attempt to have museums and leisure sites, for instance, like in Sharm el-Sheikh, in Hurghada. And this connection is being completed right now. And also the infrastructure, I guess, with new airports everywhere, this is helping. But I sensed from Mr. Badr's statements that he believes there should be more regulations, maybe more incentives to companies working in the market to help them deal with the struggle of the past couple of years, because it has been hard on some companies. And you mentioned the layoffs that happened in the tourism sector. So I want your view about the points I mentioned here, please.
Of course, opening the new museums like Kafr al-Sheikh or Sharm el-Sheikh or Hurghada museums is really important. It's part of the plan. As you can see, the Minister of Antiquities now are putting a very good effort to remind the UNESCO and the whole world by the achievements that is done in tourism business and antiquities. And on the same line, you can see even the President is more interested in visiting the events and showing Egypt in a different way. And this is part of the plan, which, for example, if you see the Royal Mummy Procession and the Luxor Avenue, you see that the President had came in the two events, and most of the whole world see the two events. So that's a kind of message that the President is giving a message to the whole world that we are more into our tourism, into our treasures.
Infrastructure.
So the infrastructure. So the plan now, for example, if I have a tourist, like the Russian tourist, or the Ukrainian tourist, or the Spanish tourist that like to come to resorts, we have the best kind of resorts. It's even better than an islands in the middle of areas in Spain, like Lanzarote, Tenerife, Malaga, Costa del Sol. And about the prices, we're not going to talk about that. So people like to come and spend 1 week or 10 days in a resort without going to a museum, without visiting a site that contains monuments, because he is coming to relax. So when I open a museum in such a place, it's grabbing people's mind to something that he never saw before, because he has a kind of tourist that enjoy relaxing by the beach, by the water sports, by the
museums are relaxing as well, right?
As well,
but it will be difficult, for these tourists to go to Cairo or to Luxor or to, so that's why we had them there for them in Sharm el-Sheikh, in Hurghada, and
that's
such
true.
places.
For example, not all the tourists. For example, if you talk to a German tourist, 80% of his tour have to be monuments, have to be sites. The British as well. But everybody who come to visit Egypt will be attracted to what he will see in any museum, in any place he visits. Like Sharm el-Sheikh or Hurghada, or the resorts that doesn't got any kind of monumental sites. And by this plan, we are attracting people's minds to raise the visits, maybe an overday or overnight visits to Cairo or Luxor or the cruise tour, which is attracting more people every year. As we mentioned that at the beginning of 2021, there was 9 months in a tourism or in a very bad condition. Then the last 3 months, starting from October, we end up the year to 2021 with an achievement of nearly $4 billion in tourism, just from the Russians, Ukrainians, and some of the Europeans, which is a number that if we keep to the next year, so we can say that 2022 we are going to reach to 16 to 17 billion dollars, and you don't know why it's very important, because it's participating by nearly 40% of the GDP in Egypt.
40?
Tourism, 40%. If we achieve this number, it will reach nearly 40%.
If we achieve this
If
number,
we achieve
right.
this number, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Because usually it's put at 15%.
13 to
around,
15.
yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
remember that
But the workforce in the tourism sector is a workforce that constitutes a big percentage of the workforce in Egypt
that's
at large,
true.
right? Because there are direct and indirect touristic jobs, right?
That's right. Indirect is nearly $6 to $7 billion. The idea is the map of the economy in the whole world is changing. I mean, look at importing and exporting. Look at inflation. Look at the hard currency in different fields that is nearly freezed for 1 year. So the most attractive thing for the people who are regaining their strength back, regaining their life back, is tourism. Because first thing you see, you do when you're locked up, is travel to a place.
You want to go out.
You want to go out. You want to go to travel to a place.
And a new place, yeah.
So I noticed from the bookings at the last 3 months, it's like raising nearly 85% in some areas and hotels, and some cancellation back again when they start.
Sometimes you want to
the
go to a
lockings.
new old place. I mean,
Yeah.
a place that you used to go to, after the lockdown. Yeah,
That's true. So I believe opening the new museum, gaining back the monuments, of course. Opening the gem, this is going to be one of the famous events.
Because
that
everybody
like
wants to
people
see
are
the
doing.
pyramids, and the gem will be just next to the pyramids. And from inside gem, you can on the horizon you can see the pyramids and the Giza plateau. So and this has been described already as the biggest cultural city in the world, and not just open a museum. It's a cultural city. It's not just a museum.
That's true. This museum is supposed to be open since 2013. And there's a lot of work have been done in this museum. Amazing number of monuments were moved there, supposed to open with at least 100,000 pieces. And this museum can take up to 300,000 pieces. It's an amazing museum, it's huge. And the new thing in this museum, you're going to see pieces that you never saw in a museum before. Like a statue for a pharaoh for 16 meter or 17 meter. This is, you won't see this in a museum. In such museums we have, or the 27 museums in Cairo, for example. You'll see that in the new Egyptian museum. You want to make one visit by the modern way. I mean, this museum will be visited first, then you take electric bus after you finish your tour in your museum to go to visit the Giza plateau without taking your common vehicle or bus or the polluting kind of tool. I usually tell it the polluting tool or something like that. Because when you use this electric bus, you will go to make some stops in the area of Giza Plateau. You visit the site number 1 in Egypt, which is Giza, and the Egyptian Museum will be one visit. It's very good for the daily tours who are coming for a charter trips, who's coming for the Sphinx famous airport, which is near the location, to make one day tour. Just an overday tour. It's very important for the people who like to see the Egyptian site of monuments, like the Giza Plateau, which is one of 11 sites containing pyramids, and a new dress, like we opened the first new restaurant inside the pyramids. This is one of the good attraction for some even locals and foreigners.
Speaking of locals, how has domestic tourism fared as far as numbers are concerned this past year?
Yeah, I noticed the last 3 months, when I visit any site in Egypt, there is amazing number of Egyptians, including students and school students as well, visiting the site. And more organized trips from families or travel agents to domestic tourism. And sometimes you can go in a site in Fridays or Saturdays, you won't be able to enter from the number of Egyptians that is visiting the site. Like, for example, the Civilization Museum.
Yeah.
Everybody in Egypt wants to see our history. The Civilization Museum is an amazing museum, but it doesn't contain much monuments. It's mentioning everything from A to Z, from prehistoric up till modern days.
Very
Islamic
attractive
period.
way, by the way, of presenting things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not a huge collection, but most of the Egyptians want to see that. People from outside Cairo and from the different states of Egypt want to see that. So I believe domestic tourism are making even better than
Expected.
Than expected, yes.
All right. Of course, we should expect that the Tahrir iconic square, the Egyptian, the Tahrir Museum or the Egyptian Museum, to keep also its status, right? Even after the opening of GEM. That doesn't mean that the Tahrir Square, that legendary museum, the Egyptian Museum, as it has always been dubbed, it will still be open and it will still have its attractiveness, right?
Of course, the Egyptian Museum, of course, it's a piece of art. It's nearly 120 years now, since August Marriott ordered to open this museum, and he died before that. We understand that anything that passes 100 years is a monument in Egypt, even if it's a kind of building.
Yeah. So the museum itself is a monument. Yeah.
So the museum itself, without the number of monuments inside, is a kind of attraction, is a kind of monument. Also, after taking amazing number of monuments from this museum, we can see this museum now in a better way. After renovating this museum to regain back the original, even colors and ground and everything in this museum by the German Institute, which was a kind of project, it reminds me of some amazing buildings that I saw in my life all around the world. Is attracting my mind. I mean, it's regaining back its history.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a site to be visited, even if it have a few number of monuments.
Yeah, because we don't want to lose it, because it was always the Egyptian Museum. We say the museum, it's the one in Tahrir. So
and you can see some monuments now are shown in the Egyptian Museum, which were stored, and we cannot even see them before. Now they are shown in a different way.
Okay. Since we are in, in a season of festivals here in Egypt, of course, and across the world, it's Christmas time. So I want to mention religious tourism in Egypt. And Egypt, of course, always the land of peace, the land of tolerance, the land of love, the land of unity. So talk to us about, the Islamic, the Coptic, the Jewish touristic attractions that we have here, and how can we exploit such times of the year to promote such tourism?
It's really important for us, as we know that we are land of history. So definitely we are going to mention the history of religion. Some people say you don't speak in politics or religion. I'm explaining a church, a mosque, a synagogue, a temple, and it's all related to religion. And the kings and pharaohs and ancient Egyptians that used to rule at that time, which was actually a kind of policy, so it's politics. So I'm mentioning all the time politics and religion. Anyway, to talk in 2021, especially this year, we have lots of renovation and restorations, especially for some mosques, like Muhammad Ali's mosque in the fort, in the citadel of Salah ad-Din, which was built in 1172, the Jewish temple in Alexandria, the San Markian church in Abbasiyah, and they all were opened in one day by the Minister of Antiquities, Khalid al-Alani, and he just mentioned this in his famous word in UNESCO when he was mentioning the year 2021 renovations and restoration. We understand that there was restorations even in Karnak Temple, in the famous pylons, by even female restorers from Luxor, which is something really nice and very attracting our minds to see a female is standing over the height of 30 meters to restore a pylon or something like, which is really attracting our minds, which is telling that everybody is involved in his history in Egypt. So even the Holy Family tour have new spots were added to the tour, like in Samanud area or Tal Basta or Sakha or Saha, which is new stops in the tour that was not allowed for everybody. Now it's opened. So I believe now the way of marketing our tourism, our religious tourism, need a different way, of course, because we got some obstacles. I got some obstacles in my tour usually. If I do usually our classic tour, and some tourists ask me to visit a place like Abu Rawash, I have to get the permission from Ministry of Antiquities and to pay £20,000 or do this or do this. So sometimes you say, okay, forget about it. Security issues. If you are not having a permission, for example, with a paper to pass through the site or a museum or whatever, so you have a police report and you stop for 15 minutes asking you why you're organizing this.
There are bureaucratic obstacles that we need to overcome.
This have to be overcome and quickly. You know why? The tourist who's coming to Egypt are enjoying the amazing sites that he's visiting to Egypt. So he's not going to wait for a police notice for even 5 minutes to say that this is legal or not legal. I come here to relax. I come here to see the history of Egypt. I don't got time to do that. And even if there is time, he is not going to be happy, and this is done to his tourist guide or travel agent. So this is a way to attract more tourism. Why Emirates are making $39.5 billion in 2019. This is a big number.
Of course.
They started with $6 billion and Egypt was $8 billion. And we reached $14.7 billion in 2010, and they're still under this. New ideas, new attractions, less bureaucracy, and a way of an ease. I mean, encouraging the tourism in a different way. I mean, everybody will go to Dubai, for example. He is free to do everything. Any kind of sport, any kind of even monumental sites were done there. Like, for example, a museum or getting some pieces from the Egyptian monuments. So this is an idea.
Speaking of sports, I mean, we've hosted a lot of important international sports events this past year, whether global in many sports or African or Arab. What about sports tourism or conference tourism and this type of tourism? Are we and we have we're working on the infrastructure as well. We have the Sharm el-Sheikh Youth Summit. So, I mean, what about this area? Are we getting what we want in this field?
In a way, it's a new direction, and we are trying. But one of my dreams, for example, is to make an international cycling contest.
Yeah.
For example,
we had a cycling contest in 2021.
I believe it's not as the one that is done internationally from all the world people. For example, where is Rally al-Farana? The Pharaoh's Rally. Where is it? I mean, we need to gain this back again. It was attracting maybe 170 countries from all around the world. People come to see. You find the hotels are fully booked. Maybe there's different.
We had a handball World Cup.
That's right.
At the peak of the corona globally, and it succeeded in an amazing way in Egypt.
That is one of the good attraction. I like it, but in tourism, usually the common, what I call it, the common athletes, sports, or the common, I don't want to say it like the World Cup and stuff like that. I want to tell something that is done specially for this country. For example, the latest thing we make an air gliding on top of the pyramid, or Luxor temple or Karnak temple, which is something that is attracting all people's minds, and some people are asking to come to do this kind of sport now in Egypt. And it's very costly, and people just do it because they're not going to see this view from the top. The pyramids is down there, or Karnak is down there. Some new idea. It's an amazing idea.
So definitely the potential is there, and has always been there for us to double and triple and quadruple and quintuple our income from this key, very vital sector.
And the most important thing is media. How I'm introducing this to the world. I mean,
the image,
the image that is, as I told you, when they choose the famous two events, they choose the day. Saturday, everybody's having a vacation. So everybody.
Well, we had a very nice image in 2021, especially in April at the Mummy's Parade, and of course the Luxor Rams Road, and we're waiting for that image again in 2022 with GEM, maybe.
With GEM and more achievements. I love that.
God willing, the Grand Egyptian Museum. Dear viewers, that is all for this episode. On behalf of you, we thank very much our dear guest here in the studio, Mr. Ahmed Mussallam. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Mr. Mussallam. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year for everybody.
Thank you, and thank you for watching us. Happy New Year, and please stay with Nile TV International. Goodbye.